The first thing you must not do is use willpower to stop drinking. And you might be thinking, that's all it takes. I just need more willpower. If I can just fight the cravings and resist the urge, then I'm going to be okay. But that is the problem. Willpower is the fastest way for you to struggle forever. Because if you see alcohol as a beneficial thing, as something that adds value to your life, you need to use willpower forever. There will always be times where you want to drink. It might be a wedding, it might be after a tough day, and you just sit there and you're like this, like, willpower, fight it. What do you think is going to happen? Come on. You're either going to drink or just feel like you're missing out forever. That's no way to live. Because if you see alcohol purely for what it is, if you can reframe how you view alcohol, apply first principles thinking, stopping drinking alcohol is the easiest thing you'll ever do. Think about it. How much willpower does it take you to not punch yourself in the face? It takes no willpower. You don't sit there resisting the urge to, I don't know, smash your head into a wall. That's how I feel with alcohol. It requires no willpower, the same way it requires no willpower for me to not jump in front of a moving vehicle. It's a logical choice. So don't use willpower. Reframe how you view alcohol. By the way, if we've not met yet, my name is Leon Sylvester. I'm the founder of SoberClear.com. We work with business people and professionals to help them stop drinking. I've not drank now for over 7 years after a decade of struggling, and I've helped tens of thousands of people to stop as well. So these are the 20 things I've personally avoided to stop drinking, but they're also the things I teach my clients. Which leads me to the second problem, and the second thing you need to avoid. Do not think that you are the problem. If you are struggling with alcohol, you are not to blame here. Literally, billions upon billions of dollars have been spent to get you to believe that alcohol is a beneficial thing. It has been hammered into your brain from day one of being born. Message after message, movie after movie, celebrity after celebrity. It's just non-stop. The bombardment never ends. And when you drink alcohol, you drink one drink, and then guess what happens? You want to drink another one because your inhibitions are lowered, you're becoming dehydrated, you want to drink more. Listen, that is the nature of alcohol combined with this ridiculous marketing. If you think that you are the problem, again, it becomes harder to solve because we've got to separate the two. You don't need fixing. Your perception of the drug needs fixing. If you can change that, then it's over. Don't think that you're the problem here. You're not to blame. The next point is number 3. Don't try to quit alcohol. And you're thinking, what are you talking about? Of course I gotta try. You can try and not drink, and you can succeed. But then, what about the day when the pressure comes? What about when you're at that wedding, you're really tired, you're really low, and then someone hands you the glass of champagne? Oh, come on, you gotta drink, it's the wedding. Well, I'm trying to not drink, but I guess, I'm only trying. I'm not really stopped, so whatever, boom, finished. Do you know how many times I've tried to stop drinking and failed? Every single time. Every single time I tried, I failed. 100% failure rate. You can't try and not drink. Well, you can try, but if you want to succeed long term and never drink again and get to the place where you don't want to drink, you cannot try. You must decide. You must decide. Do you try to brush your teeth? No, you decide to brush your teeth. How many times have you been in your bed and thought, oh, I need to brush my teeth, walked to the bathroom, and then halfway through said, actually, I was only trying. I don't know. I won't do it. Never, right? It never happens. You make a decision and you do it. You have absolute conviction in the decision. You need to see stopping drinking the same way that you see brushing your teeth. Sounds stupid, but it should make sense. The fourth thing you need to not do is make a big deal out of this. And what I mean is, I've worked with so many people who have upset their wife or their children, and then they stop drinking and they say, yeah, my wife is sick of it. And I told them, right, don't make a big deal out of it this time. Don't tell them. Words are cheap in this. If you've let people down in the past and then you're saying, I'm going to stop drinking again, and then you start making these announcements, people aren't generally happy. What they think is, I don't want to get my hopes up again. I don't want to get my hopes up for you to disappoint me. So I'll tell you what I tell my clients. Keep quiet. Don't make a big deal out of this. Because if you can truly decide to stop drinking and you've changed your worldview, you can prove it to them through action, through commitment. So don't make a big deal out of it. Don't verbalize that you're making this change. Because the real change should happen from within. It should be in your heart where you know you're not going to drink again, and then you just get on with it. And then something awesome happens. Your family start asking you, what are you doing? What are you doing? You look different. Your energy is different. Then you can tell them. But get the momentum first. Number 5, the next thing that you need to avoid doing is, and listen, you might get some medical doctors that are thinking, whoa, this is dangerous. Wait. The next thing you want to avoid doing is fearing withdrawal. Are there people out there who suffer severe withdrawal? Yes, but it's a low percentage of the population. And the thing is I've spoke with people who drink 3 or 4 bottles of wine a week and they tell me, I'm afraid of DTs. I'm afraid that I'm going to die from withdrawal. And I just think to myself, how many people are sat there terrified of withdrawal so they keep drinking? And if this is a concern, then just go and seek medical help. It's nothing to be afraid of. There's no shame in asking for help anyway. But for most of the population, it's nothing to worry about. And that's not medical advice. Just from what I've seen, that there are people that need to go and do it medically. But for those of you that don't need a medical detox, don't fear the withdrawal. Whenever you feel some negative effect of withdrawal, you need to realize that your body is healing. Then you can approach it with a feeling of optimism. Number 6 is you want to avoid calling yourself an alcoholic. If it works for you, great. My own mother has been to AA for over 20 years. She labels herself an alcoholic and hasn't drank. For me, I wasn't going to do that. There was no chance. I believe that the words and the labels that we give ourselves have tremendous power over our lives. If you want to be a successful lawyer, let's say, you want to go and be an attorney, whatever, and you label yourself as a loser, as lazy, as tired, are you going to be successful as a high-level lawyer or attorney? The answer is probably no. But if you label yourself in your head and you identify as somebody who is organized, disciplined, focused, the chance of success is far higher. So why are we labeling ourselves as powerless alcoholics with diseases that have no known cures? And I'm talking here, by the way, about the 12-step label of being an alcoholic. I'm not talking about the medical term of an alcoholic. But just remember that alcohol is the only drug on the planet that gives you a label if you can't stop using it. We don't have nicotine-aholics. We don't have heroin-aholics. But alcohol is in its own category, which is ridiculous. That makes no sense. All you need to do is fix your paradigm, fix your worldview, and everything will change. The 7th thing you want to avoid doing is spending all of your time on the past. Do some people need to go to the past and talk about PTSD from war or some terrible thing that happened in their childhood? 100% yes. But to spend all of your time focused on the past when you're trying to stop drinking alcohol and none of your time focused on the future, it ain't going to be good. Because a lot of the times, this stuff dealing with the past is very heavy emotionally. A lot of people I've worked with say they end these sessions and they want to drink more, but once you've unpacked that and you've moved past it, you want to focus on the future. You want to focus on building a life and going towards something better. The two can coexist. You can unpack those things, but then don't just unpack those things. Make sure you're moving forward, make sure you've got goals, make sure you've got a vision. The 8th thing you want to avoid doing is replacing alcohol with something else. Because just think about this. Would you need to replace punching yourself in the face with something else? Of course not. You would think that that is ridiculous, because it is ridiculous. Replace alcohol with building a life that you don't want to escape from. You don't need to replace alcohol with anything because you're freeing yourself. You're opening up so much possibility. You're opening up new opportunities. That's what you want to replace alcohol with. Don't be seeking out replacements like other drugs and who knows what. Now, the 9th thing that you want to avoid doing is beating yourself up about where you could be. Now, this is something I did. I remember being in my mid-20s and I met a 16-year-old kid. And the 16-year-old kid was making videos. He was, doing online stuff. He was having online businesses. And I was watching this guy at 16 years of age be where I wanted to be when I was in my 20s. And I was embarrassed. I was thinking to myself, oh man, like I'm just drinking and not making progress. And here's somebody that's not drinking, living the life that I want to. And he was 16. But I had 2 options there. I could either keep drinking and feel bitter and beat myself up, or stop drinking, forgive myself. That was a big one, forgiving myself, and then just getting better. See, we don't want to get bitter. We want to get better. So don't beat yourself up. Just focus on the next step. Number 10, the 10th thing you want to avoid doing is changing nothing about your life. Do not be that person that stops drinking alcohol and then just watches TV all day and they become some binge-watching Netflix expert. My gosh, don't do that. Because if you change nothing, you'll start to think, what was the point of stopping drinking in the first place? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine actually having the courage, having the motivation to get rid of alcohol, change nothing, and then think that drinking was okay? Nah. You don't know what you're capable of unless you actually make changes. Unless you start changing behaviors and moving towards something better. Number 11, do not count the days. You need to realize that the moment that you decide, and when I say decide, I mean a true ultimate decision where you know you're not going to drink again. The moment you decide, the problem is finished. It does not matter if you're 1 day sober or 20 years sober. If you make a decision, that's it. Done. You don't become more of a non-drinker the longer that you go. You are a non-drinker. Full stop. So counting the days makes no sense because you're basically telling yourself the further I move away from alcohol, the more of a non-drinker I am. It's pointless. Now, I'm not saying that celebrating milestones is a bad thing, but sat there going, all right, 7 days. Well, so what? Like, who cares if it's 7 days? Go me. It doesn't matter. People that use willpower are proud that they've gone a certain amount of time, but usually they're almost waiting to relapse because most people think the longer they go without alcohol, the harder it gets. But if you decide and don't count the days, it just gets easier and easier and easier. The only thing that happens is you start to develop more reference experiences. You start to go to social events and, not drink and then feel good and then make progress with your health, with your business, whatever. You start to feel better and better over time. So why count the days? If you're going to count anything, count the wins. Number 12, don't allow your past to dictate your future. See, when we drink, and if we've had multiple relapses along the way, if we keep telling ourselves, I'm not going to drink, not going to drink, your self-esteem can go down because you're building a relationship with yourself where you don't fully trust yourself. And if that's been your track record up until this day, it can be really quite hard to start trusting yourself again. But as long as you don't drink, that trust will be fully restored. So one of the best things you can do is don't forget about the pain that alcohol caused you in your life, but forgive yourself. Absolute forgiveness of your past mistakes. And know that if you've made that true decision, you've reframed alcohol and you're moving on, just know that will spill into other areas of your life. You can set bigger goals this time. You can go towards the thing that you might not think that you could have done when you were drinking. You can start to do that. The 13th thing you need to avoid doing is trying to escape bad days. See, as drinkers, we can often have bad days and then immediately go to a drink, immediately go and try and escape that feeling. But when you stop drinking alcohol, you're going to have to learn to sit with bad days. There are days where bad things will happen, where you don't feel great, you have 3 or 4 terrible nights of sleep in a row, and you've just got to be ready for this. You've got to be okay with not operating at 300% all the time. And when I say 300%, I mean 3 times better than what it was when you were drinking. But that's not going to be there every single day. And I've got these AA phrases in my head from when I was growing up because my mum has been for 20 years. So obviously when I'm growing up, she's giving me these little sayings. And some of them are stuck in my head because some of them are pretty good. And one of them is, this too shall pass. And actually, this is something I learned during the 10-day meditation course. It's the law of impermanence. Good things will come and go, bad things will come and go. So just be prepared for bad days. Number 14 is don't lose sight of why you're doing this. When we stop drinking, we can forget the reasons that got us going. We can forget the hangovers, the anxiety, the wasted money, the upset partners. We can forget all of this because as time goes on, the memory decreases. So one of the best things you can do when you start the journey is to write down why you're doing this and store that in a place where you can review it. But you never want to forget your why. Now, the 15th thing that you must avoid doing at all costs is doubting your decision to stop drinking. You might have heard this in popular stop drinking books. You cannot doubt the decision once you've made it. If you've decided to stop drinking alcohol, I promise you with my entire heart, you've made the right call. There is no benefit at all to putting that stuff in your body whatsoever. So whatever you do, do not doubt the decision. You've done the right thing and you're moving in the right direction. The 16th thing you want to avoid doing is thinking that you can have just one drink. Oh my gosh. This idea of having just one drink, it's hit me so many times. It sneaks up on you and you think this time's going to be different. Something's going to change. It doesn't change. There's no such thing as one drink. Don't do it. And I'll give you my success rate of having just one drink. 0%. It never works. It never has. It never will. Alcohol is a drug. It's an addictive drug. The nature of it is for you to want to drink more. Don't have just one drink. It'll never work. Which leads me to the 17th thing to avoid. Don't carry the faulty beliefs that got you here in the first place. See, what I mean by this is you don't want to start drifting into old thought patterns because there were thought patterns that got you to drink in the first place that will have seen alcohol as a good thing. And you may be starting to rebuild a new paradigm where you see it for what it actually is. You've got to be careful not to start buying into the old messaging. For example, an advert comes on. The person looks how you might want to look. They're looking cool with your favorite drink. You need to have your wits about you. You need to see that and go, no, it ain't happening. I'm not going there mentally. you've got to constantly look for evidence that's the contrary to that. You've got to be looking for evidence that says alcohol is poison, it's going to ruin your life, whatever it is. But don't slip back into old thinking, which is similar to the 18th thing to avoid doing, and it's just buying into the conditioning, particularly when it comes to people close to you. People close to you may offer you drinks, and you might feel very emotionally charged saying no to them. But you've just got to know that even the people that you love will still see alcohol as a beneficial thing, and the best thing that you can do for them is say no and set an example. Show them what life can be like without a drink. But don't let the people around you drag you back in. So number 19 is to not get skin in the game. What you don't want to do is just, sit here like this and go, all right, I'm not drinking. What's better is you start investing in yourself. Now, for some of you, that might mean joining the Sober Club program, hiring a different coach. But there are other ways to do this. You can invest in yourself with a fitness regime, a personal trainer, an exercise program, a nicer gym membership. For others, it might be more personal development stuff where they're getting executive coaching or productivity coaching and they're spending money on this. But if you can continually invest in yourself, then the cost of drinking becomes so great. I've spent over $100,000 on my own education, on my own coaches. So if I drink alcohol, I'm throwing that all away. In fact, it's part of the reason why my Sober Club program is successful, because people need to make a financial commitment. So the pain of drinking is much higher. And if you want to see if that's a good match, you can click the link in the description, you can fill in an application and then schedule a call. On that call, we can see if the Sober Club program could be a good match for you. The call is free, so it's literally an exploratory call. And after you've booked the call, I will send you so much information about the method and how it works. I've not got time to get into it today. So just go and fill in the application, book the call, and then I'll start sending you stuff. The 20th thing to avoid doing is doing this alone. It's pointless. You want to find the right community, find a coach, find someone that can hold you accountable. My own mother did this with AA. I'm not buying into the AA 12 steps, but doing it with a group of people makes sense. Why struggle on your own? Find help, don't be ashamed to ask for help, and avoid all of these things and you're going to kill it. If you click the video on the screen now, I'm going to show you what happens to your body when you stop drinking alcohol.